Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2016 Chrysler 300, we're going to be showing you how to install the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver. Before we get into that though, let's just take a minute, we'll check this one out and make sure it's going to be the right setup for you. When it comes to the Chrysler 300, there are a handful of hitches available for it, and what one is going to be best for your situation, I really just feel like depends on a couple of different things. One of them being, how do you want it to look on the back of your vehicle, and what do you plan on doing with it? With this hitch having the smaller 1¼ by 1¼ opening, I feel like this would be a good choice for those of you that really only plan on using maybe some smaller accessories or some occasional light duty towing. It's just not as versatile as some of the larger 2" by 2" hitches in terms of what accessories are available and things of that nature. But the benefit or the upside to the 1¼ smaller hitch like this is the appearance. It's not going to be nearly as noticeable and look a little bit cleaner than the larger hitch. But with the larger 2" ones, you'll have a lot more options to choose from as far as accessories and things like that, and you can just do a little bit more with them. The hitch is going to use that standard 1/2" pin and clip. Keep in mind though, one doesn't come included with it. If you need one, not a huge deal. You can get it here at eTrailer. A lot of times too, if you end up buying a new accessory, they'll come with one, so something to look out for there. And as far as these safety chain openings go, they're easy to get to, and the openings are going to be large enough to allow you to use just about any size hook that your trailer might have on it. As far as the weight capacities go, the hitch is going to have a 350-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating, and that's going to be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. So that's good for those 1 to 3, maybe even 4 bike racks, just to give you an example there. And as far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, that's going to be 3,500 pounds. That's going to be the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So just the weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have in or on it. I do always like to recommend though, it's always a good idea just to check your Chrysler's owner's manual. That way you can look in there and make sure that your 300 can handle that amount of weight safely. We'll grab a couple of measurements now, and these will help us figure out what type of accessories will work best with the hitch. If we go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 7½ inches, which to be honest isn't that great, but it's just kind of the nature of the hitch, how it's going to set on the back of the vehicle. With that said, you can use that if need be to help figure out exactly if any of those folding type accessories that you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your 300. And as far as the ground clearance goes, and of course I'm taking into account the lift that we're parked on here, that'll be about 10½ inches. So if you can get an accessory that has a rise in the shank, that would probably make the most sense. Buy some more ground clearance. And if you are going to be pulling a small trailer around occasionally or something like that, you're definitely going to want to get a ball mount that also has a rise in the shank. Probably that 4 to 6 inch range would work well for most scenarios. Other than that, at the end of the day, in my opinion, this is probably one of the better looking hitches available for the Chrysler 300. And as far as the installation goes, it's definitely time consuming. It's a little involved. Nothing really super complicated per se. It's just a lot of exhaust work. In our case, we did have to remove a small section of it, which really wasn't bad, but once the hitch is up and you're trying to kind of get everything back together, it can be a little tight. So stay patient, take your time. I'll show you a couple things that I did and to hopefully make it a little easier on you. And if this is something you just don't feel like messing with, don't have the room to do it, definitely understand. You can always check out our dealer locator network, and hopefully that can kind of get you going in the right direction as far as finding a shop that can help you out with this. But why don't we go ahead, we'll get this up in the air and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our Chrysler, and we are going to have to lower our exhaust down to give us room to work. So first thing I like to do is just take a strap and run it from side to side. That way the exhaust will have a little support and we can kind of control how fast and how far we let everything come down here. The first hanger that we can loosen up will be right here, right by the tailpipe. There's a 13mm head bolt. Pull that out, and whatever we do to one side of our vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. On each side of our vehicle, on the bottom of our fascia where it meets the floor pan, we're going to have a 10mm nut. We'll remove that. And my thought is that should give us a little more wiggle room when we are letting the exhaust come down. We're going to have another hanger on the, which should be the front side of the muffler. So if you continue to work your way towards the front of the car, right here, it's a 13mm head bolt, just like the other one. Continuing to follow our exhaust forward, there's going to be a rubber isolator hanger right here, and we can remove it. Spray it down with soapy water, it helps lubricate it, and then just take a pry bar or a big screwdriver. You're going to work the end of that hanger off. On the driver's side, we're going to remove this section of our exhaust, and since it's all unhooked already, other than 2 fasteners that we need to do still, I took another strap and just wrapped it around here, this single exhaust pipe, just so when we do remove those fasteners, it has a little support. We don't have to worry about it falling down and things like that. Here's the fasteners we need to get to. They're 13mm head nuts. So we'll remove that, and this one here. We should be able to work the exhaust, separate it. Get rid of the strap here and just try to clear everything and work this out. We'll go over our attachment points now, and yours might be set up a little bit different in terms of what type of hardware you're going to use. The kit does come with some extras to accommodate for that, so chances are really good, once your hitch is up and installed, you'll probably have some leftover bolts. But in our case, in any case rather, you're going to have 3 attachment points on each frame rail. You'll have this one, and this one. In some vehicles, it'll just be a blank hole. Others, you'll have a weld nut actually in the frame. So we have 2 weld nuts and an empty hole. All right, so what you want to do, if you have a weld nut, take one of the regular hex bolts and make sure that you're able to thread it up in there easily. If not, you definitely want to spray some penetrating oil in there and take a toothbrush and clean the threads out. This is just good practice regardless. And try it again. If you're still having trouble due to corrosion and rust issues, then what you can do is use a tool like this. This is called a tap, and it's an M12 by 1.75 thread pitch. We actually carry little kits with these in it here at eTrailer. And when you use one of these, more or less it recuts the threads and makes them like brand new again. So the way these work, if you need to use it, usually you can get it started by hand. You know, the most important thing here is to make sure that you're going straight. So that feels pretty good. And then you just want to run it in and out, you know, to clean all those threads out. So what I like to do is, you know, turn it 3 or 4 times and then loosen it a little and kind of just continue to work it there until it's all cleaned out. For the holes that have the threads in them, you know, you'll take your bolt and a conical tooth washer, and when you put these washers on, make sure the teeth are going to face up towards the hitch. So when we're holding the hitch up, those will thread into the well nuts. And for the openings that are just a plain hole, like this one here, what you want to do before you put the hitch up is take one of the pull wires. You want to take the coiled end of it, put it through the attachment point, and feed it out of one of these larger openings here. And then you'll take a spacer block, slide that over, and a carriage bolt. And that carriage bolt will thread on to the fish wire. And work that into the frame and drop it down. For the passenger side frame rail, the attachment points are going to be in the same locations as the driver's side, but on our particular vehicle, all of the attachment points were just open holes. And so I used the fish wire technique that we just showed you and that same hardware combination, you know, a carriage bolt and spacer block to get all those bolts in place. With an extra set of hands now, we can take our hitch and get it into position. For your fasteners and pull wires, you want to drop the pull wire down through the corresponding holes in the hitch. So once all those are started, you can raise our hitch into position. Get everything lined up. And we want to get at least one piece of hardware started hand tight. That way the hitch will support itself while we work on the rest of the hardware. For the carriage bolts, you're going to use a flange nut to secure those. And just kind of a pointer, a lot of times, you know, when you try to put this nut on, the bolt will want to push up into the frame, kind of be difficult. So you can take a flathead screwdriver, apply some pressure to it, remove that fish wire, and that'll keep that bolt a little more steady, making it a lot easier to get the nut started. Once all your hardware is in place and tight, come back with a 3/4 inch socket and snug everything down. You're going to make sure and come back with a torque wrench now and tighten down all of the hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. We can get our exhaust back in place now. With this, you just want to slide it towards the front. Gotta get it up into the area where it's going to sit. You can slide it more towards the back and right back onto the studs where we had removed the nuts. And now with it in place, we'll just re-secure it the opposite way that we removed it. I got the rest of our exhaust all secured and rehung and everything. And the furthest back hangers are a little tight. You know, you don't have a ton of room to get in there, so take your time with that. My advice would be, you know, get everything, all the hardware hand tight first in all the locations, and then come back and snug it all down. And then from there, put those two 10mm head nuts back on the bottom of your fascia, and that's all there is to it. So with that said, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the CURT Trailer Hitch receiver on our 2016 Chrysler 300.